Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and today for Book Trek 2021, we are going to be talking about Star Trek Deep Space Nine Invasion Time's Enemy by L.A. Graf. Now, I'm a little bit late getting my DS9 video out. Uh, Ideally, I would have had this video out in October, but that just didn't really work with my recording schedule, although I did pretty much finish this book in that month. And for Book Trek, embarked on a 5-month mission with some other really great booktubers who you can find their links down in the description. You can also follow the hashtag BookTrek2021 to find other great videos where we are exploring Star Trek fiction. And this year we are looking at the first, I guess you could say, 5 iterations of Star Trek in order of production. So in August, we looked at the original series. In September, we looked at The Next Generation. In October, Deep Space Nine. We are now in November, so we're looking at Voyager. Of course, not for this video. And then in December, we'll look at Enterprise. So I had never read a Deep Space Nine novel before. I did really like the show. I was a pretty big fan of it. The first couple seasons were a little bit rocky, but certainly once it got into the Dominion War, it really hit its stride, and they had some excellent episodes and some fascinating story arcs. So I really liked Deep Space Nine, even though I remember when it first came out, I was highly skeptical. I didn't really give it much of a chance on television. I don't think I liked the idea of there just being a station where people stayed at. I wanted ships flying around. When this was on TV weekly, I wouldn't say I was a huge Trek fan. I would see some reruns here and there. It was kind of after this went off of air that I really kind of did a deep dive with my wife, and we both really ended up liking this a lot once I finally gave it the chance that it of course had deserved. So this book is the third in a 4-part series. The series was conceived by John J. Ordover and Diane Carey. Diane Carey wrote the first book, which took place during Kirk's time, where the Federation comes across this ancient alien race that look to us like demons and gorgons, who claim that this was the Alpha Quadrant, basically, was their space, and that they were kicked out of it, and they are here to reclaim it. And that first book, I thought it had a very rocky start, but then it ended up being a really good second half, especially when they got into learning more about the Furies themselves. I thought they had an interesting, almost like pagan folk horror culture that I thought was really cool. So I wanted to see where that went. So I read the second part, which took place during Next Generation with Picard. And that book was very underwhelming for me. It felt more like a young adult novel. It introduced concepts that could have been really interesting, but I just didn't think that they really delivered. So I really didn't know what to expect with this one. Again, written by an even a third author or authors. L.A. Graf is actually a pseudonym. It is multiple authors, and I guess L.A. Graf stands for "Let's all get rich and famous." So kind of an inside joke, I guess, among the writers, which sounds like this would be a very cynical, money grab type of read, but it's not. I was actually very impressed by this. It doesn't have a lot to do with the Furies. It really feels more on the side of the other stuff that we were reading about in the first 2 books. The Furies play a very, very small component. They're really just talked about. And more it deals with what the alien species that drove the Furies out of the area of space that the Federation now occupies in the first place about 5,000 years ago. And whereas I didn't, the first book I had said, I didn't like the beginning, but I liked where it went. And the second book, it introduced concepts that they really didn't deliver on. I can't say any of those things about this book. Immediately, this book grabs you with a really intriguing mystery. You can see on the cover here, Cisco has got hair and a goatee, so we know we're basically in season 3. Worf has not joined yet. The Federation is aware of the Founders and the Jem'Hadar, but the Dominion War has not begun at all. And in the very beginning, I don't want to give away really spoilers, but just to kind of get a sense of what this beginning at least is like. It happens within the first couple pages. Cisco, Jadzia, Dax, and Bashir are asked to go to a starbase to talk to an admiral. And they find that basically what Starfleet has found is another version of their ship, the Defiant, that was stuck in a meteor for 5,000 years and has the remains of the crew. So they know that at some point, potentially, these crew members will be going back in time 5,000 years, and they want to know what happened. Now, that's just the very beginning of this mystery, and it really draws you in. It goes in all different directions after that, but not in a way that it becomes convoluted at all. I don't think of this book, insulted my intelligence in any way. It's actually got a very complex plot that doesn't really forget the strands that it drops. There's great callbacks. There's a terrific understanding of the Trek universe, of Deep Space Nine. The characters especially. The authors really, I think, knocked this out of the park. It was a page turner. It was constantly, kind of on the edge of your seat thrills at a certain point, which sounds very, very hyperbolic, but it's not. The first two books of the Invasion series deal with this alien race, the Furies, that again look like our kind of pagan monsters and demons. And there's a lot of talk in those books about how those aliens look frightening to humans, and even to certain, like maybe Klingons as well. But those books don't evoke any kind of tension in that. They don't evoke any kind of fright. This doesn't deal directly with the Furies, but this actually had tension. This is kind of, those other books deal with a little bit with horror. This actually gives us some of that, with an alien species that is a little bit, reminiscent of like xenomorphs from the Alien franchise, with a little bit of The Thing, from like John Carpenter thrown in as well. Great moments of tension. Julian Bashir is actually very well written. There's one point where he's inside a morgue in pitch dark, and he knows there's like a hostile alien in there with him. But there's also a vulnerable patient, and he's trying to get around the room to try and save the patient and avoid the alien. And it's written really, really well. Another character that really should be on this cover is Jadzia Dax. She has a terrific story arc in this. There's great considerations when it comes to the symbiont and time travel with symbionts and connections, and how does it feel to kind of have like multiple voices inside your head, as she does, because she's a Trill. So Trills have, not all of them, but certain Trills are host to a symbiont, kind of almost like this worm slug-like alien that lives within them but shares a consciousness. And they really they go to the full potential with that in this. So again, I don't want to give away spoilers, but I was surprised how much I enjoyed this. I think this is by far my favorite in the series so far. And I know that Steve Donahue, who's also one of the co-hosts of Book Trek, he had a terrible month with Deep Space Nine. He was a fan of the show, but he really didn't find any novels at all worth even discussing. He resorted to just reading other things during his Book Trek videos because he didn't want to talk about Deep Space Nine books because they were so bad. I only read one Deep Space Nine book, and I really liked it. So I'm guessing he must have read this years ago. These were originally published in the 90s, so he probably read this a long time ago. But yeah, I thought this was terrific. So anyway, for Book Trek 2021, I had a winner for Deep Space Nine. All right. Sorry, Steve. Thank you, BookTube.